Okay, this is test number 15. Again, this will be part 2 out of 2, starting off at number 18. Says to graph the equation y plus 2 equals negative x minus 4. Now, what you need, this is called point slope form, and it's called point slope form for a reason. It's called point slope form for a reason because you have to have a point and you have to have the slope. That's what's actually given to you, and that's what we can graph. The easiest thing to see most of the time, and in this case it's kind of a little bit of an exception, is the slope value. Remember, your point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Your slope value would be the m value, this one here. But see, it doesn't have a number listed. It just has a negative. You have to understand that that means negative 1. So your slope is negative 1. Okay. Your point is derived from your x sub 1, y sub 1 values. But remember, with your point slope form, again, looking back to the flow chart, you got to think opposite. The very last thing says think opposite for x sub 1, y sub 1. So as you're looking at x sub 1's value, which is listed here as negative 4, you have to think opposite and think positive 4. And y sub 1's value, which is listed as positive 2, you have to think opposite with that one, and it'll be negative 2. So unlike when we graph our equations in slope-intercept form, this time we actually have a point that we're going to start with. So instead of starting at the y-intercept, we're actually going to start at the point that's given to us for negative 2. So when you create yourself a graph, for negative 2 means to go to the right 4 times and to go down 2 times. So that's the first point, for negative 2. Then your slope is negative 1. Negative 1, remember, everything's considered to be over 1. Your slope tells you where to move. Your m tells you where to go. So it tells you to go down 1, because remember, it's your up and down, or you're changing your y, and to the right, since it's positive, 1 time. So we're going to need at least have one more mark going down, and we're going to go to the right one, I'm sorry, down 1 time, and then to the right 1 time for our second point. Once you have your second point, and I wrote my label to the point right in the way. But once you have your second point, you can create your graph by drawing a line through the two things, and try my best to make a straight one on here. Remember, it'll help to use graph paper. It's not necessary, though. The graph will still look very similar to that one, even if you scribble it like I just did. But that's using point slope form, finding a point for negative 2 and a slope given negative 1. Remember, think opposite when you're talking about your point. Same thing with number 19. Your slope, again, just like the last one, is negative 1, even though it doesn't show the 1. So your slope value will be negative 1. Remember, with your x sub 1s and your y sub 1s, think opposite with those numbers. Remember, the one that's by the x is going to be your x value. So that says positive 5, so your x value will actually be negative 5. The one that's by your y will be your y1 sub 1 value that says negative 3, so think positive 3. So when you graph that, you're going to start at negative 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and positive 1, 2, 3. So your first point will be at negative 5, positive 3. Okay, your slope again is negative 1. Everything's considered over 1. Tells you you rise over your run. You go up or down, which means go down 1 since it's negative, and to the right 1 since it's positive. So from the point given, we're going to go down 1, and we're going to go to the right 1 again for our second point. Once you have your second point, you can draw your graph through. And try to always connect it through both of your axes to show where the intercepts would probably be close to, and your graph should look very close to that. Number 20, these two are really simple to graph. Y equals negative 3 and x equals negative 4. So when you're looking at your graph, you know, and we've been learning for several months now, this is our y-axis and this is our x-axis. So it says where y's value is negative 3, that means we're going to go down 1, 2, 3 and put ourselves a point. If y's value is always negative 3, it's going to be negative 3 no matter what x value we plug in, positive or negative. So we not a wavy line like that, but a horizontal line that looks like that. Y's value is negative 3. So likewise with x's value is negative 4, negative 1, 2, 3, 4 on your x-axis, it'll always be negative 4. So what we're going to have there is a vertical line. Number 22 says write equations in point slope form. So this is what we're a little bit more comfortable with, not going backwards like we did a minute ago, but writing them in point slope form. Point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? We're going to leave y, we're going to leave equals, and we're going to leave a parentheses with an x in it, and we're going to plug in the values that we have. This is x sub 1, and this one's y sub 1. So it says, where it says y minus y sub 1, we're going to put minus a negative 6. Where it says m's value, we'll put m's value 3/5. And where it says x value 4, we're going to put minus 4. The only change we need to make regarding this one is we need to get rid of minus a negative 6. We need to have y plus 6 equals 3/5 times x minus 4. That's point slope form. Again, the same thing with this one, x sub 1, y sub 1. Leave y, leave equals, and leave a parentheses with an x in it. We'll plug the rest in. Where it says y sub 1, minus y sub 1, so you're going to have minus negative 9 again. M's value is negative 2, and where it says x sub 1's value is going to be minus 10. So the only change, again, we need to make, just like on the last one, minus a negative becomes y plus 9. Equals negative 2 times x minus 10. Point slope form. Okay, this one right here says a line passes through these points, write it in point slope form, and then rewrite it in slope intercept form. And we're actually going to make a change on the next one because it says standard form. We hadn't quite got there yet. So the first thing you need to do is you need to find your slope. Remember, your slope is the change of y over your change of x. That's your slope formula. So if we have x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2, we're just going to plug those values in. 7 minus a negative 5 over negative 3 minus 1. 7 minus a negative 5 means plus 5, which is 12. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So your slope value, 12 divided by negative 4, is negative 3. To write it in point slope form, you're going to use one of the points. We'll use the first one that's listed, 1, negative 5. That's x sub 1, y sub 1. Remember, you want to rewrite it. You want to leave y, you want to leave equals, and you want to leave it, the x with the parentheses. Y minus y sub 1, we'll go ahead and skip the next step. We'll just say plus 5. It'll be minus a negative 5, which we all know means plus 5, equals your m value you just found at negative 3 times x minus 1. So this is your point slope form. This is for A. This is what you had to do for letter A. Then it says rewrite it in slope intercept form. All you need to do is what some of y'all were trying to do the last couple of days is go ahead and simplify this. Negative 3 times x when you distribute it is negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 1 is plus 3. And then get rid of y plus 5 by subtracting 5. And this will cancel. If you subtract 5 on the left, you have to subtract 5 on the right. Y equals negative 3x. 3 minus 5 will be minus 2. And here's your slope intercept form. That's what you have to do for B. Okay, for number 25, make this change real quick. It says rewrite the equation in standard form. We're going to do slope intercept form again. We hadn't quite got to standard form this week, and I had made this test beforehand, so we're going to have to work on this on Monday. We'll do standard form. It says a line passes through these 2 points, so we'll follow the same format, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. And if you look back at your flow map again, the first thing you need to do is you need to find your slope. So what we'll do is we'll plug those values in. Y sub 2's value will be 4 minus y sub 1 is negative 1. Over x sub 2 is 8 minus x sub 1 is 2. So 4 minus the negative 1 is 4 plus 1, which is 5, and 8 minus 2 will be 6. So your slope, there's no number that goes into both of these, will be 5 over 6. We'll use the point 2, negative 1, just because it's listed first, and plug it into our slope, our point slope form. Remember, you leave y, you leave equals, and you leave a parentheses with the first x in it, and we'll plug the rest of the values in. Y minus y sub 1 will be minus a negative 1, which means plus 1, equals, we just found our slope value to be 5 over 6, times x minus x sub 1, which is 2. So x minus 2. This will be point slope form. That's what you have to do for A. If we're going to rewrite it in slope intercept form, we're going to need to distribute that and create 5/6 x. and then 5 times negative 2. If you multiply straight across, because everything's considered over 1, 5 times negative 2 will be minus 10, and 6 times 1 will be 6. So we still have y plus 1 on the left. Easiest way to get rid of divide by 6 is to multiply everything by 6. Remember that? So if we multiply this by 6, and both of these terms by 6, it'll cancel out the division of 6. So 6 times y will be 6y plus 6 times 1 is 6 equals 5 times x, since we canceled out the over 5, minus 10, again, since we canceled out the over 5. Simplify this by get rid of my plus 6 by subtracting 6. If you do it on the left, you have to subtract 6 on the right. These will cancel and leave you with 6y equals 5x. Negative 10 minus 6 is negative 16. Get rid of multiply by 6 by dividing by 6. You divide the left by 6, you need to divide the right by 6. Notice it came right back. And you divide that by 6. These will cancel out. Y equals the slope that we've been having, 5 over 6x. And the number 2 goes into both of these terms. It goes into negative 16, negative 8 times, and into 6 3 times. Here it is, slope-intercept form. 26 and 27, are they parallel? Y equals mx plus b. So your slope of your first line is 1 over 6. Remember, if lines are parallel, they have the same slope. They have the same slope. So what you need to do is you need to find the slope of your second line. Move negative 2x over. That's the same thing as minus 2x by adding it. You add 2x to the left. You have to do it to the right. These will cancel and give you 12y equals 2x negative 11 or minus 11. Get rid of multiply by 12 by dividing by 12. These will cancel. You have to divide these by 12 as well. The number 2 goes into both of those terms. It goes into itself 1 time and then the 12 6 times. So 1 6x. And then negative 11 over 12. There's no number that goes into both of those. So your slope, if this is y equals mx plus b, all you're interested in to find out if they parallel is the slope. Both of them have the same slope. So where it says to explain, you can simply explain it as they have the same slope. So we need to check to see on 27 if they also have the same slope. Y equals mx plus b. So your first slope is easy to see. M is equal to 5. You have to move your second equation around to see the slope. Add 18x to both sides, and you're left with 3y equals 18x minus 54. Now we did was added 18x to both sides, and divide both sides by 3. This will cancel out. Divide this term by 3, and you get 6x. And divide this term by 3, and you get negative 18. So what you have is y equals 6x minus 18, or y equals mx plus b. Here is your slope for this one. So your m value is 6 for this one. Your m value of your first equation was 5. Those are not the same, so it's not parallel because they have different slopes. Write an equation that's parallel going through the given point. Okay, so we're going through, we have a slope given to us, mx plus b. So our slope for this one is negative 5. And we have a point given to us. So that'll be x sub 1, y sub 1. If you write it in point slope form, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Y minus 3 equals negative 5 times x plus 6. Point slope form. Again, this one's supposed to have a fraction sign in it. Your slope value, y equals mx plus b. Your slope will be 3/4 for that one. X sub 1, y sub 1. Plug your values in. Y minus y sub 1 will be y minus a negative 18, which turns into plus 18, equals m, which is 3/4, times x minus x sub 1, which we have negative 8, which becomes plus 8. Point slope form. And then the last two are a little bit quicker. We'll make it in the time factor. It says the absolute value of 18 minus 6. 18 minus 6 gives you the absolute value of 12. That's just the distance it is from 0, which is 12. And then the very last one, number 31. Solve the equation. Get all your x's on the same side. Subtract 3x to move them over, and you have 2x minus 5 equals negative 9. Add 5 to both sides, and you have 2x, these will cancel, equals negative 4, and divide by 2 on both sides, x equals negative 2.